Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen and I'm here today with another quotes video. And for this quotes video, I'm doing quotes from The Inheritance Cycle. I just finished a reread of this series. It is a childhood favorite and I wanted to reread it this year so that I could read the short story collection, The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm, which was published last year and which I am currently about halfway through. And so since I've been talking about these books kind of all year long here on my channel, I thought it'd be nice to do a quotes video dedicated to this series. So I've got 12 quotes here, and they're all from Eldest and Brisingar. I'm not sure why these two are so much more quotable than the first and the last book, but they seem to be. I do have one quote from The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm. But jumping right in, my first quote is from Ormus in Eldest, and he says, "Too many problems in this world are caused by men with noble dispositions and clouded minds. History provides us with numerous examples of people who were convinced they were doing the right thing and committed terrible crimes because of it." Which is oh so true, and Ormus is just one of our wisest characters as Eragon's mentor and an old member of the Dragon Riders, and an elf. My next quote is another one from Eldest, and it is a conversation between Eragon and Ormus, and rather a long one. So first Eragon says, "It seems a cold world without something more." And Ormus replies, "On the contrary, it is a better world, a place where we are responsible for our own actions, where we can be kind to one another because we want to and because it is the right thing to do, instead of being frightened into behaving by the threat of divine punishment. I won't tell you what to believe, Eragon. It is far better to be taught to think critically and then be allowed to make your own decisions than to have someone else's notions thrust upon you. You asked after our religion, and I have answered you true. Make of it what you will." Which is a quote that I agree with both parts of the quotes. I agree with Ormus's outlook on religion and his statement that it is up to Eragon to decide what he believes, as it should be up to everyone. My next quote, also from Eldest, is from a conversation between Saphira and Eragon. So Saphira says, "It takes courage to admit you were wrong," and Eragon replies, "Only if you are afraid of looking foolish, and I would have looked far more foolish if I had persisted with an erroneous belief." And Saphira says, "Why, little one, you just said something wise." And indeed he did. My next quote is from Saphira in Brisingar, so my first non-Eldest quote. And it is, "To while away the day contemplating evils that might have been is to poison the happiness we already have." My next quote is also from Saphira in Brisingar, and it is quite a long one. So Saphira says, "You cannot help but to be human, yet you do not have to be bound by what those around you believe. You can grow beyond the limits of your race, if you have the will. If the events of the past teach us anything, it is that kings and queens and other leaders who have brought the races closer together are the ones who have accomplished the greatest good. It is strife and anger we must guard against, not closer relations with those who were once our foes. Remember your distrust of the Urgles, for they have well earned it. But also remember that once dwarves and dragons loved one another no more than humans and Urgles. And once dragons fought against the elves and would have driven their race to extinction if we could have. Once those things were true, but no more, because people like you had the courage to set aside past hatreds and forge new bonds of friendship where previously none existed." My next quote is another conversation between Ormus and Eragon. These were often some of the deepest conversations in the book. So Ormus says, "Ask what you will, and I promise I shall answer all of your questions to the best of my knowledge." And Eragon says, "What if I don't know the right questions to ask?" My next quote is from Saphira in Eldest, and she says, "Live in the present, remember the past, and fear not the future, for it doesn't exist and never shall. There is only now." And my next quote is a riddle and also kind of a funny quote. It's between Eragon and Saphira in Brisingar. So Eragon puts the riddle to her, "I am colored red and blue and yellow and every other hue of the rainbow. I am long and short, thick and thin, and I often rest coiled up. I can eat 100 sheep in a row and still be hungry. What am I?" And so Saphira immediately replies, "A dragon, of course." And Eragon says, "No, a woolen rug." And Saphira is quite offended by this riddle. She doesn't really enjoy this one, and it's pretty funny. Again, she thinks rather highly of herself, and she does not appreciate the comparison to a woolen rug. Next, we have another little conversation between Saphira and Eragon in Eldest, in which Eragon says, "We're throwing ourselves off a cliff without knowing how deep the water below is." And Saphira replies, "Ah, but what a glorious flight," which is just a nice, fun, adventuresome quote. And my final quote is my one quote from The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm, and it is from the dragon Umaroth. And he says, "Does the eagle worry about the length of the day? Does the bear or the deer or the fish in the sea? No, so why should you? Chew what you can and leave the rest for tomorrow." So yeah, those are 12 quotes from the Inheritance cycle that I love. Let me know down below if you have any well-loved quotes from the Inheritance cycle. Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.